let's get to the hot topic. So as we start to talk about kind of the last big portion before we get into our sound off to conclude our first podcast of Buckets and Banter, I think that we've got to discuss the transfer portal. I have thoughts about it as a private school coach. I have thoughts about it as a director of a Adidas sponsored AAU program. But I think that in general, oftentimes we only look at something that is popular in media and we just say, oh, it's bad. Like, to me, I think that that is a very short-sighted approach to the transfer portal. And I think that everyone's initial reaction to it is, well, it's not teaching kids how to be tough. It's not
Face
teaching them.
adversity.
Right. And like that, there is some element of that that is 100% true.
Totally.
But to me, what I think about it is as long as these opportunities, like there's more teams than have ever existed in the amateur space. Take college out of it, like that transfer portal, like set number of teams, whatever. There's more teams in the amateur space than ever, which means there's more adults promising things. There's more parents who need
Totally.
information. Like if there's more opportunities, it's just simply more likely to happen. So
Mhm.
my challenge would be like, how do we make it work so that it is teaching kids the right things? And maybe that's a different type of conversation. But to me, I think that there's good and bad with the portal, just like there is with any situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think but it starts at the top. I think this has kind of developed over time. Honestly, I think it's kind of a bigger picture thing that started with player movement in the NBA. And then
Mm,
obviously it didn't really happen in college until it was allowed to happen in college. Players 15 years ago weren't transferring like they are now. However, they didn't have the ability to. That
right.
forfeiting a year just didn't seem feasible for most, athletes, especially if you were aspiring to go play professionally in some capacity. So I think that's really part of it is the start of what it became in the NBA, now what it is in college. And it kind of allows there's somewhat of a it's accepted. It's not necessarily
Right.
embraced, but it's accepted by all the people that are involved in it that it's just something that's inevitable at this point. And it's tough because to your point, all these people are being promised things, and there's people who are, for lack of a better term, ignorant because they're just ill-informed and lack knowledge.
Right.
People who are in the space take advantage because they know the ins and outs of people who
Mm,
don't. And ultimately that's what it comes down to is do research. I feel like that's probably the biggest issue that I have with these
right.
transfer portals, especially in high school. I see kids transfer all the time to places that they'll either A, never play, or B, places that have produced nothing that they are intending to become.
Mm,
So these people with these dreams of becoming a high major kid, well, the school that you're transferring to, when was the last time they put a kid high major? Okay, last year, how's the kid doing? 5 years ago, how was that kid? Did he
right.
transfer down? Did he stay there? Was it a case study? Are there more examples? Just having more information has never hurt anybody. But
Right.
we have some type of epidemic where nobody wants to do any research. We have more resources accessible than we ever had before. It's so simple to just search a coach, a school,
Right.
what
Right.
they've
For
accomplished,
sure.
guys, and the
All people who know them.
totally. So yeah, it's shocking to me that in a time where we have more accessibility than ever, people are making more and more ill-informed decisions. And I think that also, not to say that people are weak or not facing adversity or whatever, it's almost become groupthink in a way of like, I have to do this because if I don't go to this school or this team, my kid will struggle or not get the same advantages as any other kid, which could be true in some capacity, but more often than not is not reality.
I think that all of the points that you said are really valid. And what it makes me think about is this idea of alignment. Like every single person in a kid's journey has to be aligned for them to be their most successful self. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
When I start thinking about like kids who have come to the Burlington school or left, that is always what leads to a kid being successful, is the ability to have parents player, coach, trainer, travel coach, everybody has to be on the same page. And I think that when you lack alignment, ultimately what happens is that it just becomes not a fit. And I don't think that that is a bad thing. I think that it's a real thing. Like
Yeah.
for me personally, with my story in high school basketball, I was the eighth man on my JV team as a 10th grader. I went to a massive public high school in Pennsylvania. Five of the people on my team, five of my teammates ended up playing collegiate football. One of them ended up playing in the NFL for 8 years. Shout out to Nate Stupar for his amazing career. Like I'm sitting here at 6'4", 170 pounds. I can't play against this guy is 220 pounds in the 10th grade. Like, I mean, it's just not the same thing. So I was very fortunate because my family moved. My dad gets a new opportunity, a new job in Washington, D.C. And so I end up going to a much smaller, much more progressive, liberal private high school in Sidwell Friends School before they became what they are now. And so for me, I always joke with them when I talk to their coach, Eric Singletary. Shout out to Eric Singletary for his great knowledge and wisdom and for taking that program to new heights. But I always joke with him like, this is the house, this beautiful new gym. This is the house that I built. Like my teammates built this.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, like, just gives us a hard time about it. But amazing guy. But anyway, I say that to say like then at Sidwell, I was really able to flourish. I was able to start for 2 years. I was able to be team MVP. We were able to win a conference championship for the first time in 37 years. Like those things happen as a result of transferring. So I think that to your point, it's foolish to just sit here and say, well, like, oh, well, this is all negative. For me, I would never have been able to experience what I did through the basketball space if it was not for that transfer. Now, that transfer is different because my family legitimately moved. That's not always the same as what you would see now. But in the college space in particular, to say that this is oh, well, you've got a kid transferring 4 times in 4 years, this, and this. That's a money thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the second you get money involved in this, like, what do you expect a kid or their circle to do? Hey, man, you could be the starting small forward here and you can get 250,000, but if you go here, you might be this person and you might get 600. What are we, do you know the value of more? Like, what are you talking about? Like that's human nature. Human beings respond to incentives. Like it's a silly thing to say that somehow that is the bad part of it. Now, when you start talking about character, right? An idea that I have heard recently that I really, really like is you transfer one time, cool. Like things happen. You
Yep.
transfer after that one time at the collegiate level, you have to sit a year. I like
I
that
agree.
personally.
I agree. I mean, I don't see the downside to this unless there's some type of applicable waiver, whether it be for a coach leaving or something of that nature.
Right, right.
Yeah, I'm with you. One transfer, everything else you get penalized for, unless it's within the whatever I just said. So I, I think that I want to make it clear that there are advantages to transferring. I'm not going to speak on colleges so much because to your point, that's getting money involved. And I'm not going to speak
Hmm.
on somebody's money and what they should or shouldn't do. As
Sure.
far as high school, there are benefits to transferring.
Right,
Like you said, you had a transformation when you transferred, and it gave you an opportunity that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
right,
Those instances are okay, but there are too many instances where people are just going to these big programs wherever they are. I'm not going to say public, private, independent, but these big programs and are just being part of the program. They're not ever going to contribute. And parents that think that these kids are going to contribute are none the wiser because they think that they're just part of this is just part of the situation. If I just continue to stay on the grind, eventually their time will come. And then come junior, senior year, and they're asking where minutes are and what's going to
right,
happen, and
right,
they get recruited over continually or what have you, then they're dissatisfied and time's too late. You have too many kids throwing away critical development years when they're 15, 16, and 17 years old. That is as important as anything. It's hard to wind back the clock when you're 18, 19, 20, going into college, just learning how to play basketball, just getting reps. Reps are more important than anything. If you're not playing, you're not doing what you need to be doing. You're in a situation, and again, this may fall on the player. I'm not in every practice, so I can't profess to say
Sure, sure,
why
sure.
guys should or shouldn't be playing. But at the end of the day, if you're putting in the work and you're still in a position where you're not getting reps, put yourself in a different position.
And I think that within that, coaches need to take more ownership over what matters for the trajectory of the player. I think oftentimes, and I'm guilty of this, you're carrying the weight of the world around over every win or every loss, as opposed to thinking about the young men that are in that locker room, what their character is, what their goals are, et cetera, et cetera. And specifically when it comes to the transfer portal or kids transferring at the high school level, like coaches have got to ask themselves when these kids transfer, like, where did I go wrong? Like, is there something that I need to be doing differently? Like, am I doing everything I can to get them seen by a college coach? Now, sometimes that doesn't even apply to the kid that is left.
Sure.
And so that again goes back to your point about getting the information, being informed, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that right now, the more that there can be continuity and consistency within a team, we all know that's what's going to lead to their success, right? Like, look at the Thunder this year at the NBA level.
Yeah.
You go out, you've got pretty much the whole team together for multiple years, and then you add one piece that's new, and that's the guy that can help you get to where you want to go. Two pieces. Who are the
Alex,
two?
Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein.
That was the other one. That's a great point. Yes. But there's an element of that that needs to exist. But I also think that the reality now is this idea of having a new team every year. Like, I think you would agree, this is kind of trickling into the high school space too.
Yeah, in some capacity. I think the problem is, though, is that with these, when you have the ability to team build, you have too many coaches or programs that are not building teams. They're building all-star teams. They're just acquiring talent with no concept of cohesiveness or a
Mm,
bigger picture. You have to be adaptable either A, to your personnel, or you have to get personnel that is adaptable to your concepts.
right,
So one or the other has to give. Too many guys are just acquiring talent because it's sexy on paper. Hey, if I get this 6'9" kid, it's going to be great because he's a rising sophomore. And then the kid doesn't develop or doesn't play. And then the kid's lost a year of their development.
right.
And then the recruitment stunts. It happens all the time.
And then you want to, then you might hear some of those people blame the kid too, when in
Yeah.
reality it was about the plan all along.
Or the fit
Um,
or whatever, the context, the circumstance. Yeah. A lot of this stuff matters. And again, it just goes back to being informed and putting yourself in a position and your kid in a position to be successful. It's obviously easier said than done. It's hard to know who to trust in these spaces, but at the end of the day, research is readily
right,
available. I
right.
can't say that enough.
And the other thing too that I would say within this before we kind of get into the last part is like the clarity around what each person can and will be on that team is so essential. Like, as someone who has worked at a private school, who has experienced a great deal of transfers both in and out of the program, like that in private school, that happens. I don't know a single team where that does not take place.
Sure.
Um, and I think that for me, my biggest reflection as a coach in how to navigate this space is like, you have got to be crystal clear with what the plan is. Because in the moments where we have been crystal clear as coaches, as athletic personnel, whatever the case may be, the path forward is really, really good. Like we were crystal clear with King Gibson, crystal clear. And like that plan worked, everyone was aligned. Obviously, I didn't want him to leave because I'm not an idiot. But
Sure.
it is a
Pretty
situation where
good.
now that I look back at him and his rankings and the offer list that he has and what he will become, I actually spoke to his dad recently, which was phenomenal. Shout out to Dane Gibson for the great talks that we've had. But that's a situation where, like the vision was aligned. I've also had many situations where we haven't been aligned and I haven't delivered on what I've said. And I have to own that. And I don't know that enough coaches will or do own that. But in general, I don't think it's going away. I think that this illusion of like, well, it's all bad and it's all this and it's all that, like, well, if it's all bad, you can just sit there and be a negative Nancy. But at some point, like, we've got to be able to figure this out because kids are always going to be coming through programs and they're always going to be here. So we have to do right by them in terms of how to navigate this space. That would be kind of my final thought on it.
Yeah, ultimately, I would say transfers, as somebody who's single and not married, this is going to be a silly analogy. It feels like transfers are almost, you can equate them to like marriages and divorces because they are similar in a way. You know, it is breaking up in a fashion. It's never good to have more. It's never been like, oh, you've transferred 5 times, awesome. You've transferred 3 times, great. One, okay, I can manage that. More than that seems excessive. Two,